Pete Fiutak, welcome to T-Town. I hope all is well.
So is that country or Western that you were playing in the intro music?
No, that's Nick Saban's neighbor over at Lake Burton. Alan
Okay.
Jackson. So Pete, you and I, if I took you to a great meal place, right, I'd buy your meal. Okay. Rich people don't buy each other meals. They buy antique boats. Nick Saban told the story one time. Alan Jackson gave him a $50,000 wooden, antique wooden boat. Just for I don't know, crap and giggles.
Well, that barely buys you a defensive back at Alabama, doesn't it?
Ooh.
I'm sorry. You set it up. If you're going to put it on a tee like that, I'm going to have to hit it. I'm sorry.
$50,000 for a defensive back? We pay that much?
That's actually light, in the market, but I digress.
Okay. But no, that was country music. That was country music. It was country music. I mean,
oh, okay.
You guys have that in Illinois? I mean,
I try to avoid it at all costs, but I'm sure it's around here somewhere. Yeah.
Well, we support Nick Saban's buddies. We just, we try. We try to make sure
of course.
that, we cover. It's a scratch your back, you scratch mine type thing.
So you're going to get a $50,000 boat out of this is basically what you're saying.
I just like to get a ride in the boat.
Okay.
I'm thinking, Nick Saban does this where he takes all the players out and they do senior leadership day or leadership council. Then they do the freshman newcomers. I think you should take the media out on the inner tubes and sling us around.
So. You know what? You say that if for all of the people who don't like and dislike the whole Steve Spurrier thing, he was a god when it came to that stuff, and that goes a long way. When the media likes you, you get a couple hundred benefits of the doubt, and there was nobody better when it came to the student media than Steve Spurrier was, and he was pretty good at that whole thing. And you could tell the coaches who know how to at least be civil to the media, they have a much, much easier life.
Well, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and this is up in Tennessee. He does radio up in the Nashville area. And we were talking about Jeromy Pruitt, and knowing my connections here to Tuscaloosa, he said, how was Jeromy with the media, the brief? And I said, he was okay. He said, man, he is an absolute snob up here. He said he won't do radio. He's awful with the media. And I'm like, woo, he better continue to win. He better try to find a way to get on that winning side.
There's a good and a bad to Jeromy Pruitt, and the no-nonsense attitude's awesome. But like you said, you got to win. You can be Nick Saban if you're Nick Saban. You can't do that if you're – and, you see across the college football landscape where, being great with the media, again, buys you a lot of goodwill. Why is Clay Helton still at USC? Because he's a good dude and people like him. You don't go 5-7 at USC and keep your job. So it sometimes helps if you have a personality and you're just not a jerkweed. People are going to want to keep you around, and if you win a lot of games, you can do whatever you want.
5 dangerous teams that nobody's talking about, Pete. I'll lead you through the gate. Give me a couple of those teams 5 dangerous teams that nobody's talking about.
The whole premise and idea is, okay, last year at this time, if we were to say, hey, Pitt's going to play in the ACC championship, Kentucky's going to have a shot at the SEC's title late in November, and Northwestern was going to win the Big Ten West, you'd be like, not a chance. So these are the teams that they're going to fly under the radar, but are going to be right there in the thick of things for a whole slew of reasons. Some teams have just took a year off where they just had a down year, but that they're good. The program is sound. The coaching is great, and they're going to bounce back. Virginia Tech is one of those teams. It was a rebuilding year last year. It was supposed to be a rebuilding year, and now this team, even though they lost some key parts on offense, should be pretty strong. TCU, same thing. No offense whatsoever, but they still found a way to get bowl eligible, have a winning season. Now this team looks a heck of a lot better. It's one of the 3 best teams in the Big 12. Minnesota, it's all about Nebraska. They're getting all the love in the Big Ten West, but this Gopher team is rock solid all across the board. And then Mizzou in the SEC, hell hath no fury than a program with bad NCAA sanctions, and they can play loose and free, and they've got enough talent there where they can really screw somebody up this season.
So, Missouri's got a schedule that's pretty favorable, too. There's a lot of freebies out there.
Yeah, and that's it. It comes, but since they can't play for the SEC championship or go to a bowl game, it's really about, okay, how much can they mess with everyone else? they've got a good enough starting 22, and if they can take the right attitude throughout the whole season, that every game matters to them. Every game's a bowl. Like that trip to Georgia is going to be that's their be-all end-all bowl game. I'm not going to say they're going to win it, but that's just again a dangerous team that's just going to think that that's its game of the year that it has to play. Whereas Georgia obviously has like 5 games of the year to play with. Florida has to come to Columbia. And like you said, the schedule looks all right. There's no Alabama. There's no LSU. I don't think there's a Mississippi State on there. I could be wrong. But like you said, if you look at that schedule, there's 10-2 potentially there. It's not a crazy thought. They're probably not going to do that. But again, the whole idea is they're going to be a dangerous team that's going to be a problem for a whole lot of teams with hoping for a big season.
Pete, how likely is it that 2 SEC teams are in the final 4 college football playoffs, in your opinion?
The only way this works is that you got to eliminate somebody else. A Power 5 conference champion has to have 2 losses or more. What we haven't had yet in the college football playoff era is the big, massive conference championship game upset. We haven't had we've seen the teams who didn't get there get into the college football playoff. Obviously, your guys down there, Ohio State. But what we haven't gotten is the 9-3, say Miami beating Clemson or something like that, or the crazy wacky Northwestern pulled it off against Ohio State last year. So we're overdue for one of those. So for 2 SEC teams to get in, you're going to have at least 2 Power 5 conferences whose champion has 2 losses or more. Definitely, I don't think anybody's running the table in the Pac-12 or doing this with 1 loss or 3. So basically eliminate the whole Pac-12 from the college football playoff line. So if you just need one more, look at the Big Ten. Give me that team that's absolutely rock solid, lock guaranteed to go 12-1. Ohio State's close. I still like Michigan this year, but there's no sure thing. That's Big Ten East is the second best division in all of college football. So if that happens, that opens the door up. And on a theoretical basis, considering the SEC is by far the best conference in college football, you got to look at this conference and say you kind of have to throw some of the records out a little bit and look at who's just the best 4 teams. And the SEC, like last year, Georgia absolutely should have gotten in. Looks like they definitely are going to have a couple teams that are all going to be right there at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, but Pete, when you look at Georgia and Alabama, if they play in the SEC title, don't you think that hurts their chances? Because you go, well, we've already seen the way that narrative plays out. We don't need to see it again. If you see the SEC title, to me, the college football selection committee. Now you've been out there, you've been out to Grapevine and went through the experiment. Am I right about that? I mean, if they've already seen this sort of scenario play out, are they less likely to kind of throw all that together?
In my thought, yes, that's how it kind of should be, except for the fact that if you're going to go onto the belief system that the 4 best teams in college football have to be playing in this thing, and you're not looking at rematches, you don't care about narrative, you're saying that committee has one job, and they have to come up with who are, and the problem I have with the college football playoff system is that it's such a loose set of criteria. There's no rules. They suggest that they want conference champions, but not really. Last year we saw Ohio State be the first Power 5 conference champion with 1 loss or fewer to not get in this thing. So it really is based on who they think the 4 best teams are. So with that in mind, last year, I know it happened in to Texas, but at the time, how do you argue against Georgia being one of the 4 best teams in college football when it almost took down Alabama, who was in the midst of this epic season?
Pete, who's the best player in college football right now, regardless of classification? Who's the number 1 player, in your opinion, in college football?
I mean, if we're going based on pro talent, it's Trevor Lawrence. He is right now, if there's an NFL draft, he's the number 1. He would have been the number 1 guy last year. He's the prototype of prototypes. That's it. There's your best player. It doesn't mean he's going to Heisman. It doesn't mean he's going to even be All-American. I don't think he's going to necessarily have the stats that some of these other guys are going to put up. But he is, if you had an NFL draft of the entire world of college football, he's the one of one. Tua is going to be an interesting call this year. He's got to stay healthy. And I know it's been assumed that he's the number 1 overall draft pick in next year's draft. The problem with that is twofold. One, who needs a quarterback? And look at Dak Prescott's issues right now. He can ask for $40 million, but if he doesn't get it, where's he going to go? All 30, okay, Josh Rosen's still trying to figure it out, and, Joe Flacco's not great at Denver, but really, there's no one who desperately has to have a starting quarterback at this moment. So if you're Tua and you've already got a kind of a little bit of a short lifespan so far, a short resume, and you've been banged up in some key moments, yeah, that's a little bit of a concern if you're going to keep taking shots, and health is going to be a major issue for him.
We're talking to Pete Fiutak. He has also read an article. It's a very simple one. Path to the playoff. How can Alabama and Clemson not get in? The number 5 is injuries. We're already having bad luck in Tuscaloosa. The injury bug has already found its way to T-Town.
Yep. And that's it. I mean, it's the narrative of the season. To me, it's now that we're in the day and age of the grad transfer and the transfer portal, whose starting quarterback stays healthy? And we've talked about this before. Alabama's probably better equipped to lose its starting quarterback than anybody else. Again, if you can win a national championship with Jacob Coker, you can kind of figure it out. And but boy, if Georgia loses Jake Fromm, good luck. If Clemson loses Trevor Lawrence, good luck. If Justin Fields isn't great for Ohio State, or if he gets hurt, game over. And there isn't the depth at quarterback that there has been in the past. So what's the number one thing that can derail both these teams? If Trevor Lawrence goes down for, say, 5 games, they could lose a game or two. They could lose at Texas A&M. They could lose a game to one of these decent ACC teams on the wrong day. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's if it's not going to happen. If we can figure out, okay, how would Clemson not get into the college football playoff? Well, that would be it.
Pete, is there any reason to believe that Sark will not be successful with this offense? I mean, you look at Tua Tagovailoa, you look at 4 potential first-rounders at the wide receiver, you look at the backs, you look at the offensive line, which is probably going to be the best since 2012. I don't think it's in that same classification as 2012 offensive line, but this offensive line is going to be really, really good in T-Town under Kyle Flood. But is there a reason not to believe in Sark, in your opinion?
Not really. I mean,
sure.
Look, how do you screw this up? And
great point.
That's. I mean, how you and I could be offensive coordinator. I know it's simplifying it, but look at this talent. Give me the Alabama team under Nick Saban, or maybe ever, that has had this much NFL talent across the board. Because obviously, you haven't always had that superstar quarterback. That was always kind of the thing. What would happen if Alabama had a quarterback? And now you got one who's getting to his second year as a starter. You've got this ridiculous deep NFL group of wide receivers, 2 NFL starting running backs. I mean, again, I try to find it. Give me the team in the country, including Clemson, that has this type of array of talent at the skill spots. And like you said, as long as the offensive line is good, when has Nick Saban ever had a better offense?
Pete, your favorite college town that you've been to that you just love to go to a game. Give me your favorite college town, Pete Fiutak.
It's not just because I went there, but Madison is so much fun. It's just, and I say this kind of like the hipster doofus. I went to Wisconsin when it was awful at football, and it was a blast because it was such a party. Football didn't matter to them. It was just, you had 80,000 people showing up just to drink beer and eat bad food, and it was a blast. Pretty much all SEC places, most of the SEC places I've ever been to have been a whole lot of fun on game day. It's kind of hard. It really depends on what kind of atmosphere in the game is. I kind of thought, I know it's sacrilegious to say that, for example, Notre Dame was kind of overrated. It was fine. I didn't get all squishy like I feel like I was supposed to at Notre Dame when I've been there. But there's just nothing like a really big, giant game. And to me, the atmospheres now around any of the college football playoff games, those are always a blast because you have so much excitement and everyone buzzing, and you've got a big game between the 2 monster teams. That's over the last 5 years of the college football playoff has been better than anything else.
Other than 110 or 108,000 people, is Ann Arbor, I mean, does it live up to the expectations?
It's okay. In terms of game day atmosphere, it's fine. The key to a good college game day atmosphere is who's drunk. So who gets how much drinking is there, how much tailgating is there, and how the cookouts smell. That's effectively it. Because everything else is just, okay, you have fans showing up to a game. But yeah, it was all right. I didn't really care that much about Ann Arbor. I kind of thought it was 100,000 people kind of sitting on their hands politely clapping. But it's certainly the bigger the game, the more exciting the atmosphere is going to be no matter what.
Yeah, and hey, if Nick Saban continues to win and I continue to do radio in Tuscaloosa, we'll be making that trip to South Bend and Madison, Wisconsin. I mean, I'm excited about that trip. Everybody says it's a great venue, and I know you mentioned it leading out of the gate. I mean, it's on the list. We're heading there in a couple of years.
It's a different sort of animal. It's again, because it's the college football aspect of it is almost separate from the drinking and party aspect of it. And I hate using party as a verb, but it's from just the entire way that town operates pretty much every weekend, no matter what, and then add college football to the mix. It's pretty fun stuff.
Well, especially if it has any of that same Green Bay passion. That if these guys are like part-time Lambeau fans and then they're Madison, Wisconsin fans, the Badgers, then
here's the difference I found. You don't have the inherent entitled factor. Like you mentioned Michigan before, Notre Dame. You have some of these places where it's kind of ingrained where, and I'm sure Alabama more than any place else, where you're going there expecting to see 59-3. It doesn't matter who you're playing. Wisconsin fans, and Wisconsin as a program was just god-awful miserable until around 1993. So you had a couple years here and there, but there isn't that ingrained generational thing happening where it's just, okay, Wisconsin football is going to be, it's a part of our lives or anything like that. It's just kind of not how it rolls. So again, it's kind of a combined, relaxed atmosphere overall. But to your point also, and it's one of my pet peeves, it's part of the, especially the early part of the college football season now, I am really against the whole neutral site thing. And for the exact game day reason, you take it off a campus and you take away the luster, you take away the fun of the game, you take away, I think, a lot of the buzz. I mean, every once in a while, sure, you're going to get a non-conference game, probably, the Oregon-Auburn game where you're going to sell the place out and it's going to be an electric atmosphere. But more often than not, you're missing the flavor of college football by making it more antiseptic. I would love to get rid of the whole neutral site thing happening for regular season games, but that's not going to happen, obviously.
Pete Fiutak, tell us more about collegefootballnews.com. And I know you guys are spitting out the content with 18 days away from big college football. You got week 0 and all those different things, but we're counting down to big boy college football. What's happening at collegefootballnews.com?
Well, game on. I mean, now people – it's so weird because you're among one of us in terms of the living in a bubble. It's kind of weird to realize that the rest of the world doesn't really care about college football until right now. Just like for me in NFL fantasy football, I got my draft this week, so right now I care. I could not have possibly cared less about it before that. And now you get people who are fired up about it. So this is a fun time of year. All the predictions are going up, all the big articles and all that. And then we have our CFN podcast, and occasionally we get the likes of Ryan Fowler are going to come on and spin some tales with us here and there. So,
hey, are you still playing?
Rock and roll now.
Are you still playing my pressure issue and comment? If Nick Saban doesn't win now, when will he?
It's fantastic. It's all up there on iTunes. You can listen to Ryan Fowler basically saying anything less than a national champion and Nick Saban's fired this year.
Did I really say that?
No, but
okay.
You basically that's the way we're going to spin it, just because it's more interesting that way.
Okay, all right, yeah. Go listen to me demand that we win a national.
It's basically more like if you guys don't win the national championship this year, you're going to have a bad year after that, and it's going to make life harder on you.
Oh, I know. Well, and yesterday, Pete, we had a guest on that came in and picked Georgia to beat Alabama. They started calling for Pete Fiutak. They told me to kick this particular guy off and bring you back. So that's why I said.
Was it? I think I saw a tweet. Was it my man Barrett?
It was is your guy Barrett, man. He picked Georgia to beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa.
Well, Barrett started off his illustrious career as a CFNer. I love the guy dearly, and occasionally he's a little wrong about certain things. It's not crazy, although he picked Georgia like the last 3 years.
He has.
So he's kind of like I am with Michigan right now. He's going to keep picking it until he's right, and eventually he is going to be right. But no, he's fine. Hey, you can't make a pick happen. You can only see it. So he's not crazy.
Who's your national championship prediction?
I've said all along. I said it's going to be Alabama versus Oklahoma, the national title. I think this is the year that Oklahoma, mainly because talking about wanting to make a pick happen, I think Alabama versus Jalen Hurts and Oklahoma playing for the national title would just be amazing fun.
Who's going to win it though?
I guess I have to say Alabama right now, so I don't get yelled at. And you guys
Oh, praise the Lord! Yes, thank you.
Exactly.
That's why we invited you back, Pete Fiutak.
Exactly. I know how to kiss up to the crowd.
All right, you're the Grand Marshal of Christmas. Pete Fiutak, have an awesome week, my friend. We'll talk to you very, very soon.
Have a good one, Ryan.